We appreciate each and every one of you. We'd love to hear from you. Where in the world are you watching from right now? Let us know in the comments. Now let's jump into today's story. Ryan Carter stood at the floor-to-ceiling window of his corner office, gazing at the bustling city streets of Chicago's financial district below. At 47, he presented a commanding presence in his finely tailored navy suit. The morning sunlight highlighted the silver streaks in his dark hair, earned from decades of building Carter Capital Group from the ground up. His phone buzzed with a message from his stepdaughter, Emily Rivers. "Dad, I hate to ask, but the university billing office is giving me trouble again. Can we talk?" Ryan smiled, recalling the shy 13-year-old who had started calling him Dad 14 years ago. Now 27 and pursuing her MBA, Emily had grown into a poised and driven young woman. "Of course, sweetheart. I'll handle it today." His assistant, Lauren Kim, knocked softly on the door. "Mr. Carter, your 10 a.m. meeting with Sterling Enterprises has arrived. Push it to tomorrow, Lauren. Family comes first." Lauren nodded, masking her surprise. In over a decade, she'd never seen Ryan Carter reschedule a meeting with a major client. "Understood, sir. Shall I have David bring the car around?" "Please, and clear my afternoon as well." Ryan grabbed his leather briefcase, which held copies of Emily's recent tuition statements. Her request for financial help had increased lately, citing rising fees and additional expenses. Ryan chalked it up to the elite program she was attending and inflation. After all, Emily had always been financially responsible. The drive to the university took 30 minutes, during which Ryan reviewed several client proposals on his tablet. David, his driver of 12 years, skillfully navigated through the morning traffic. "How are Amanda's college applications going, David?" Ryan asked, recalling his driver's daughter. "Very well, sir. Thanks to your recommendation letter. She has 3 interviews lined up." "Talent deserves opportunity," Ryan replied, a principle he lived by and one he had applied to raising Emily. The sprawling university campus came into view, a mix of historic architecture and manicured greens. Straightening his tie, Ryan stepped out of the car. "I'll call when I'm finished, David." The financial aid office was located on the first floor of an imposing stone building. Inside, the scent of aged books mingled with institutional cleaning supplies. A student assistant looked up from her desk, her eyes widening slightly at the sight of Ryan's polished appearance. His suit probably cost more than her tuition for a semester. "Good morning. I'm here to see Rachel Whitman regarding Emily Rivers' account." "One moment, sir." The assistant made a quick call, then gestured him toward an office. Rachel Whitman's workspace reflected her years in administration, neat, efficient, and showing signs of wear. In her early 50s, with gray-streaked hair and glasses perched on her nose, she greeted him warmly, but with an air of hesitation. "Mr. Carter, I must admit I'm surprised to see you here." Ryan took the offered seat. Emily mentioned issues with her account. "I'm here to settle any outstanding balance and pay next semester's fees in advance." Rachel's expression turned serious. "Mr. Carter, I believe there's been some misunderstanding. Emily withdrew from the university 3 months ago." The words hit Ryan like a blow, but years of corporate negotiations had taught him to maintain his composure. "There must be some mistake. Emily has been keeping me updated on her classes and professors." He pulled out the tuition statements. "I have the records here." Rachel examined the documents carefully. "These are not official university records, Mr. Carter. Our system shows Emily formally withdrew at the start of the semester, citing personal reasons." Ryan's mind raced through recent conversations with Emily. Vague updates about professors he hadn't met, increased financial requests, and her avoidance of his invitations to visit campus. "I see," he said evenly. "Could you provide me with a copy of her withdrawal form?" Rachel printed the document, showing Emily's signature dated 3 months prior. "Thank you for your assistance, Ms. Whitman. One last thing. Has Emily requested her transcripts or records to be sent elsewhere?" "No, Mr. Carter, no such requests have been made." Outside, Ryan loosened his tie as the crisp autumn air failed to cool his simmering frustration. The drive back felt longer than usual. In the back seat, Ryan methodically pieced together the inconsistencies. "Should we return to the office, sir?" David asked cautiously. "No. Take me to the Meridian. Ryan instructed, referring to Emily's upscale apartment complex, where he had co-signed her lease 2 years ago. During the drive, Ryan tried Emily's phone 3 times, each call going straight to voicemail. Her cheerful recorded greeting now seemed almost mocking. "Hi, it's Emily. Leave a message, and I'll get back to you soon." Pulling up her Instagram profile, something he rarely checked, Ryan noted her last post, 2 weeks ago, a sunset photo tagged at his vacation home in Martha's Vineyard. "David, change of plans. Call Haley Porter's number from my contacts," he instructed, referring to Emily's roommate. Haley answered on the fourth ring. "Hello? Kelsey, it's Charles Bancroft." "Oh, Mr. Bancroft." The hesitation in her voice was palpable. "Is everything okay? I'm trying to reach Julia. Her phone seems to be off." Kelsey's discomfort radiated through the phone. "Julia moved out a few weeks ago. She said she was staying at her mom's beach house." Charles's jaw tightened. "Did she say why?" "Not really. She just packed up one weekend and said she needed some family time." Another pause. "I thought you knew." "Of course." Charles lied smoothly. "I was just confirming." "Thank you, Kelsey." After hanging up, Charles pulled up the beach house's security app on his phone. The system showed regular activity over the past 3 months, exactly when Julia had withdrawn from university. "Oliver, take me to East Hampton." "Sir? That's a 2-hour drive." "Then we better get started." During the drive, Charles made several calls, his voice never betraying the storm brewing beneath his calm exterior. First to his assistant, Laura, "Cancel all my meetings for the next 2 days. Family emergency." Then to his head of security, "Daniel, I need everything you have on Lucas Hale." "Yes, Amanda's personal trainer." "Everything." The East Hampton house was a modern masterpiece of glass and steel, perched on 2 acres of pristine beachfront. Charles had bought it 5 years ago for $8 million, then spent another $3 million on renovations to make it perfect for Amanda. Robert Foster, the head of security for the gated community, met Charles's car at the gate. The man's usual professional demeanor seemed strained. "Mr. Bancroft, we weren't expecting you today." "Clearly not," Charles replied, noting Robert's discomfort. "How long have they been here?" Robert shifted his weight. "Sir?" "Robert, I've doubled your Christmas bonus for the past 5 years. Don't insult both of us by pretending you don't know what I'm talking about." The security guard's shoulders slumped. Mrs. Bancroft said not to disturb them. "She's been here with Miss Bennett for about 3 months. And Mr. Hale, the trainer, he's been staying here too." Charles nodded, as if this was exactly what he'd expected. "Thank you for your honesty, Robert. I trust you'll extend me the same courtesy in the future." "Yes, sir. Of course, sir." The house key felt heavy in Charles's hand as he stood at the front door. Inside, he could hear faint music and voices from the back patio. He entered silently, his expensive shoes soundless on the marble floors. The entrance hall showed signs of occupation. Unfamiliar men's boots by the door, a gym bag that definitely wasn't his. Moving through the house, Charles noted more evidence of his wife's betrayal. Prescription prenatal vitamins on the kitchen counter. A man's watch he'd never seen before on the master bedroom nightstand. As he approached the patio doors, voices became clearer. He stopped just inside, hidden by the costly designer drapes he'd let Amanda select. "Mom, these flowers would be perfect for the ceremony." Julia's voice, excited and carefree. "The colors will match the sunset perfectly." "They're beautiful, honey." Amanda's voice carried that warm tone that had first attracted Charles to her. "But won't they be out of season by then?" "Not if we have the wedding in June like we planned. The divorce should be final by April, and that gives us plenty of time for everything to settle." Charles peered through the gap in the curtains. The scene before him was like a photograph of betrayal. Amanda reclined on a luxury lounger, her hand resting on a clearly pregnant belly. Julia sat cross-legged beside her, a tablet in hand displaying what appeared to be wedding venues. And there was Lucas Hale, shirtless and tanned, mixing drinks at the outdoor bar Charles had installed last summer. "Baby, bring me that coconut water instead," Amanda called to Lucas. "The doctor said to watch my sugar intake." "Anything for you and our little one," Lucas replied, his tone sickeningly sweet. He looked exactly as Charles remembered from their brief meetings, 33, perfectly muscled, with the kind of looks that belonged in a fitness magazine. I still can't believe how perfect everything's working out, Julia continued, swiping through images on her tablet. The venue deposit is paid. I've got the caterer on hold, and that money Dad's been sending for tuition has covered all the wedding planner's fees. Amanda laughed, and the sound made Charles's blood run cold. He always was too trusting. Remember when he actually believed you needed extra money for special seminars last month? Tyler Walsh listened as Cassandra laughed over the phone. Those luxury birthing classes aren't cheap, Mom. Her tone carried a hint of mockery. Amanda smiled, sipping a coconut water Oscar had just handed her. Just like keeping the pregnancy a secret from the gossips at the club. Oscar nodded, adding, but it'll all be worth it when everything is finalized. He placed the glass down in front of Amanda, his eyes filled with smug satisfaction. Your dad won't know what hit him. By the time he realizes, we'll have everything wrapped up. Tyler stood in the shadow of the curtain in the living room, every word reaching his ears clearly. He didn't need to hear more. Turning away, he moved through the house without a sound. In the car, he opened his phone and sent a message to Benjamin Boyer, his lawyer and longtime friend. Need to meet. Tonight. It's about Amanda. Worse than we thought. The reply came quickly. Usual place. 8 p.m. On the drive back to the city, Tyler sat quietly, watching the coastal mansion slip past the window. In his mind, the steps of his plan were already forming. Amanda, Cassandra, and Oscar thought they were playing a long game, but they had no idea what a real long game looked like. James, Tyler said quietly, take the scenic route back. I need to make a few calls. The car turned onto the coastal road, and Tyler began strategizing his response. The oak room at the St. Regis brought back memories for Tyler. He'd signed his first $1 million deal there 15 years ago. Tonight, the room would serve a different purpose. Tyler sat in the corner, watching the ice melt in an untouched glass of Macallan 25. Right on time, Benjamin walked in, never late by even a minute. You look terrible, Ben remarked, ordering himself a glass of scotch. Tyler began recounting everything, every detail. Cassandra dropping out of university, Oscar's presence at the beach house, Amanda's pregnancy, and the planned wedding. When Tyler finished, Ben pulled out his phone and sent several messages. I'll have my investigative team on this tonight. But they've already made some critical mistakes, Ben said, leaning forward, his tone low. Cassandra has taken money under the pretense of tuition, but used it for unauthorized purposes. That's fraud. Amanda, on the other hand, has been using joint accounts for her affair-related expenses. We'll easily trace that through the financial records. Tyler nodded, his expression cold. What about Oscar? Ben smirked, his smile sharp. He's a professional con artist. He finds wealthy women, seduces them, and takes assets through messy divorces. This isn't his first time. Tyler flipped through the documents Ben provided, each detail seared into his memory. They think they're clever planning ahead, but I want to handle this carefully. We'll show them what a real long game looks like. Tyler and Ben spent the next hour drafting a meticulous plan, each step laid out clearly. You're not just going to win, Ben said, leaning back. You're going to make them destroy themselves. Tyler nodded, his smile ice cold. First, we secure the company. I'll move the shares into a new trust tomorrow morning. Ironclad. Untouchable. Over the following week, everything on the surface appeared normal. Tyler attended meetings, closed deals, and stuck to his routine. But every evening, as Margaret entered his office to report, she sensed something different. Cassandra called about the tuition payment, she informed him. Tyler looked up from his desk. Tell her I'll handle it tomorrow. And Margaret, I'll need you to assist with sensitive documents over the next few months. Margaret nodded, understanding the unspoken message. She had worked with Tyler Walsh long enough to know he was preparing for a significant battle. The tuition payments continued, each one carefully documented. Tyler even agreed to increase the amounts when Cassandra called, her voice sweet and concerned about rising costs. Of course, sweetheart, he said, recording the conversation. Whatever you need for your education. Meanwhile, Ben's investigation into Oscar Bright revealed a pattern that was both predictable and damning. 5 wealthy women across 3 states, each relationship following the same script. personal training sessions leading to an affair, promises of a new life, and a calculated divorce where Oscar walked away with significant assets. He's good, Ben admitted during one of their evening strategy sessions. He uses burner phones for communication. Tyler Walsh ensured his name was absent from most documents. But Oscar had made a crucial mistake involving Amanda. How so? Ben asked. Got overconfident, Tyler replied, his tone calm. He used the joint credit card I gave Amanda for emergencies. Hotel rooms, extravagant gifts, even their dates. A satisfied smile touched Tyler's lips. It was precisely what he had anticipated when he handed Amanda that card 2 years ago. Document everything. I want a full timeline of their activities, he instructed Ben. The next phase required meticulous execution. Leveraging his extensive network, Tyler arranged for Oscar to receive an enticing offer. A fitness director position at a high-end resort in Singapore with an impressive salary and extraordinary benefits. Predictably, Oscar declined. He thinks Amanda is his ticket to a bigger payday, Ben remarked. Tyler's smile turned sharper. Classic mistake, greed blinds judgment. Now we know he's fully committed to their scheme. Tyler carried on with his usual routine, concealing his careful preparations beneath a composed exterior. He enhanced the security measures in his office, ensuring every meeting would be recorded, and instructed his legal team to scrutinize Amanda's prenup, particularly the morality clause she had ironically insisted on including. Cassandra's financial misconduct laid the groundwork for criminal charges. Tyler and Ben documented every fraudulent transaction, amassing a case that was bulletproof. The fact that Cassandra had funneled the funds into wedding preparations and Amanda's private medical expenses only bolstered their position. The beauty of it, Ben noted with satisfaction, is that they've done most of the work for us. Every cover-up strengthens our case. Evenings found Tyler in his home office, meticulously reviewing security footage from the beach house. He observed Oscar's comings and goings, Amanda's increasingly obvious pregnancy, and Cassandra's frequent visits. Each detail was recorded, each pattern analyzed. One evening, James, his driver, broke the silence as they returned from the office. Mrs. Walsh called again about the Carter Charity Gala next week. Tyler checked his watch and replied, "Tell her I'll attend." "And James?" "Take the rest of the week off. Family is important." The subtle warning was clear, and James nodded in understanding. Months of careful planning culminated on a crisp December morning. From his office, Tyler gazed at the barren trees of Central Park against the gray sky. Everything was ready. Pressing the intercom, he instructed, "Margaret, please show my family in." Amanda entered first, elegantly dressed in designer clothing funded by Tyler's wealth, her pregnancy now more apparent despite her efforts to conceal it. Cassandra followed, clutching a tablet likely filled with wedding plans, and Oscar entered last, his confidence faltering slightly in the imposing corporate setting. "Darling," Amanda greeted, her voice saccharine. "What a surprise. You've been so busy." Tyler gestured toward the leather sofa. "Sit," he instructed, his voice calm but firm. "We need to discuss family." Amanda settled between Oscar and Cassandra, and Tyler noted the way Oscar's hand instinctively rested on Amanda's back. A subtle yet territorial gesture. Tyler leaned forward, his expression unreadable. "Family should always know the truth," he began. He pressed a button on his desk, activating the screen behind him. What truth might that be? Amanda's feigned innocence no longer affected him. Tyler's gaze shifted to Oscar. "Let's start with you." The first set of documents appeared on the screen. "Would you care to explain these?" The screen illuminated with divorce settlements, bank records, and surveillance photos. Oscar's expression remained calm, but his grip on Amanda's shoulder tightened. "I'm not sure what you're insinuating," Oscar began, but Tyler cut him off. 5 wealthy women in 3 states. Each one divorcing their husbands after meeting you. Each settlement conveniently listing you as the beneficiary of various assets. Tyler's tone was conversational, almost pleasant. "You're skilled at your game. I'll give you that. Until now." Amanda turned toward Oscar, confusion breaking through her carefully crafted facade. "What is he talking about?" she demanded. "He's trying to manipulate us," Oscar said quickly. "This is all fake." "Fake," Tyler repeated, pressing another button. Silent security footage from multiple hotels played on the screen. Like the hotel rooms you booked with Amanda's emergency credit card? Or the jewelry you purchased using our joint account? Cassandra opened her mouth to speak, but Tyler's sharp gaze silenced her. I'm not finished. Tyler gestured to the screen as more documents appeared. University withdrawal papers, suspicious bank transfers, and wedding venue deposits. While Oscar was running his usual scam, you two had your own plans. He turned his focus to Cassandra. As of this morning, the police have launched an investigation into your fraudulent use of tuition funds. Care to explain how you diverted that money for wedding preparations and your mother's private medical care? Cassandra's face turned pale. Dad, I can explain, she began, but Tyler didn't pause. And Amanda, Tyler continued, his voice cold. Do you recall that morality clause you insisted on adding to our prenup? The one stating that infidelity would forfeit any claims to my company assets. Amanda's hand instinctively rested on her stomach. You wouldn't, she whispered. Tyler's tone didn't waver. I would. And I am. Standing, he buttoned his suit jacket. You thought you were clever, planning your escape with my money. But you overlooked something critical. Oscar's voice held a trace of defiance. And what's that? Tyler's smile was icy. I built my fortune by turning other people's mistakes into opportunities. Your mistakes, as it happens, have been extremely profitable. He proceeded methodically, detailing the charges against Cassandra, the evidence nullifying Amanda's claims under the prenup, and the damning report prepared for Oscar's professional certification board. You can't do this, Amanda protested, tears welling in her eyes. I'm pregnant. Tyler's gaze didn't soften. Yes, you are. With another man's child, while still married to me. That will make the divorce proceedings interesting. He turned toward the door. Now, I suggest you all leave. My security team will escort you out. Oh, and Oscar? He paused. That job offer in Singapore? It's still available. I suggest you consider it before the certification board reviews their documentation. As they exited, Tyler caught Amanda's voice cracking. Oscar, tell me it isn't true. The other women, the door closed on their chaos and recriminations. Tyler returned to his desk, looking out over the city skyline. His empire had been built on recognizing opportunities, and sometimes, betrayal offered the greatest of them. Benjamin entered moments later, his demeanor calm. It's done. The police are ready to question Cassandra. Amanda's accounts have been frozen. And Oscar? Let's just say his career in New York is finished. Tyler nodded, turning away from the window. Good. Now let's move on to the divorce strategy. Meanwhile, at JFK, Oscar Bright sat in the terminal, a first-class ticket to Singapore in hand, booked under an alias. His designer carry-on contained all that remained of his once lavish life in New York. Oscar's phone buzzed with another message from Amanda, the 20th in 2 hours. He deleted it without reading. It had been 3 days since Tyler Matsumoto's orchestrated revelation in his office. 3 days since the world Oscar Kamita had carefully built had collapsed. The certification board's investigation was gaining momentum. Former clients were stepping forward, and his professional reputation was in tatters. Last call for Singapore Airlines Flight 23. Oscar grabbed his bag. The job offer in Singapore was still available. Tyler had made sure of that. It was a choice between leaving or facing mounting legal pressure in Tokyo. He had chosen survival over Amanda and their unborn child, just like he had 5 times before. Across the city, Amanda Matsumoto sat in the waiting room of her obstetrician's office, mascara smeared from crying. Her phone displayed Oscar's message from the night before. Sorry, babe, can't risk the investigation. Better this way. Take care of yourself and the baby. The receptionist approached cautiously. Ms. Matsumoto, your card was declined. Amanda's hand shook as she pulled out another credit card, one of the joint accounts she had used for her secret expenses. Declined again. Tyler had frozen everything. Meanwhile, at the district attorney's office, Cassandra Yamaguchi was facing the consequences of her actions. The evidence against her was overwhelming. Falsified tuition requests, fraudulent use of funds, documented transfers to wedding vendors and medical facilities. Your father's evidence is ironclad, her court-appointed attorney, David Chun, explained. Every transaction, every lie, Every step of the fraud. He documented everything. There has to be something you can do, Cassandra pleaded. I'm his daughter. Stepdaughter, Chun corrected. And no, there isn't much I can do unless. Unless what? Unless you're willing to cooperate. Tell us everything about your mother's involvement. How the plan was developed. Who initiated it. Where the money went. Cassandra's loyalty lasted exactly 17 minutes. By the time she finished her statement, she had thrown Amanda under the bus so thoroughly that the prosecutor was smiling. At Matsumoto Investments, Tyler reviewed the morning reports with Benjamin. Oscar's on his way to Singapore, Benjamin confirmed. Booked the ticket an hour after the certification board contacted him. Tyler nodded, unsurprised. And Amanda? Trying to access the accounts you froze. She's also called your personal line 8 times. Let her squirm. Tyler turned to the window, watching his reflection in the glass. And Cassandra? Singing like a canary. Turns out your stepdaughter's loyalty only runs as deep as her trust fund. Benjamin shuffled his papers. She's offered to testify against Amanda in exchange for a lighter sentence. Perfect. Tyler's smile was cold. They plotted together. Now let them destroy each other. The divorce papers had already been filed. Amanda's attempts to claim part of the company's assets failed before they even began. The prenup's morality clause was airtight, and Tyler's evidence of her infidelity was overwhelming. Your wife's lawyer called, Benjamin mentioned. They want to discuss a settlement. No discussion needed. She gets exactly what the prenup stipulates in cases of infidelity. Nothing. The following weeks unfolded like a carefully orchestrated symphony of consequences. Amanda, abandoned by both her lover and her daughter, faced the harsh reality of her choices. Her pregnancy, once a triumph in her plan with Oscar, became a source of whispered gossip at the country club. The scandal might have been contained if not for an unexpected alliance. Norma and Kenji Saito, Amanda's parents, reached out to Tyler directly. We raised her better than this, Norma said during their lunch meeting at La Bernardi. Her pearls and perfect posture couldn't hide her disgust at her daughter's behavior. Kenji, and I want you to know we stand with you, Tyler. Kenji Saito, a retired judge, nodded gravely. Amanda's actions are inexcusable. Using her own daughter in this scheme, betraying a man who's given her everything. Your support means a lot, Tyler replied, genuine appreciation in his voice. The Saitos had always treated him like a son. I know this isn't easy for you. Oh, it's quite easy. Norma's tone could have frozen hell. Our daughter chose to destroy her marriage, conspire with her child to commit fraud, and bring shame to both families. There's nothing difficult about choosing sides here. Their support proved crucial in the social fallout. When Amanda tried to spin her version of events at the annual gala at the Metropolitan Museum, Norma shut her down publicly. Darling, she said, her voice carrying across the room, do stop embarrassing yourself. Your lovers fled to Singapore, your daughter's facing criminal charges, and you're pregnant with another man's child while still married. Perhaps dignity and silence would be best. Cassandra's reckoning came in a different form. The fraud charges threatened everything she had taken for granted. Her reputation, her future career prospects, and her lifestyle. Her only hope was cooperating with the authorities. In a sterile conference room at the prosecutor's office, she detailed everything. It was her mother's idea initially. After she got involved with Oscar, she said her father's money could fund their fresh start. It helped them hide the pregnancy, use the tuition money for their plans. The prosecutor, Sarah Martinez, took detailed notes. And you understood this was fraud? Yes, Cassandra's voice was small. I knew it was wrong. But Mom said after the divorce, with Oscar's help, they'd make sure I was taken care of. The same Oscar, who's now in Singapore? Cassandra's silence was answer enough. Meanwhile, Tyler's position in both business and social circles strengthened. His handling of the crisis impressed clients and competitors alike. The man who'd turned personal betrayal into professional triumph became something of a legend in Manhattan's upper circles. I've had 3 potential investors call this week, Benjamin reported during their regular meeting. They're impressed by how you handled everything. Crisis management at its finest, they said. 1 year later, Tyler's office had a different view. The company's expansion had necessitated a move to a higher floor. offering an even more commanding vista of Central Park. Success, it seemed, was the best revenge. The morning sun caught the edges of an envelope on his desk. Cassandra's latest attempt at reconciliation. Like its predecessors, it would remain unopened. Some bridges, once burned, should stay ash. His phone buzzed with a message from Lynn Rhodes. They'd met during the divorce proceedings. She'd been part of Benjamin's legal team. Her brilliance in court had caught his attention. Her integrity in life had kept it. Dinner tonight? That new place on Madison? Tyler smiled as he replied affirmatively. Lynn understood him in ways Amanda never had. She appreciated his strategic mind, shared his values, and most importantly, respected him. Mr. Walsh? Margaret's voice came through the intercom. Benjamin Boyer is here for your weekly lunch. The restaurant they chose offered a view of Central Park's autumn colors. Benjamin arrived exactly on time, as always. The beach house sold, he reported, settling into his seat. Above asking price, Tyler nodded. He donated the proceeds to a charity supporting victims of fraud, a decision that had generated considerable positive press, and more importantly, felt right. How's Amanda doing? Benjamin asked, though they both knew he kept tabs on everyone involved. Struggling with single motherhood, the trust fund from her parents barely covers basic expenses. Tyler's tone held no satisfaction, just a statement of fact. Oscar sends sporadic child support when he remembers, and Cassandra? Working entry-level at a small firm in Queens. Part of her plea agreement, Tyler sipped his water. She writes monthly, asking to meet, wanting to explain, going to answer her? No need. Sometimes the best revenge is simply letting people face the consequences of their own actions. Their conversation turned to business matters, but Tyler's mind briefly wandered to how much had changed in a year. His company had grown, partly thanks to clients who'd admired his handling of the crisis. What could have destroyed him had instead revealed his strength. That evening, as he left the restaurant, Tyler felt no joy in their suffering. Their punishment wasn't his victory. It was simply the natural consequence of their choices. He'd merely ensured he wasn't collateral damage in their self-destruction. Walking to meet Lynn for dinner, Tyler felt something he hadn't expected. Peace. The betrayal that could have broken him had instead freed him. His old life, built on false loyalties and pretend family bonds, had made way for something genuine. Lynn was waiting at their usual table, her legal briefs set aside as he approached her. Her smile held no artifice. Her success was her own, and her loyalty had never been bought with his money or position. "Good day?" she asked as he sat down. "Better," he replied, and meant it. Sometimes, Tyler reflected, losing a false family was the only way to make room for a true one. He'd survived their betrayal and emerged stronger, wiser, and surprisingly happier. In the end, he hadn't needed to destroy them. They'd done that themselves. His only role had been to ensure they couldn't destroy him in the process. Epilogue. 5 years later, the Manhattan skyline had changed, but Walsh Tower stood unchanged. 48 stories of glass and steel, its illuminated logo visible for blocks. The building, once just a floor in Tyler Walsh's portfolio, now housed the headquarters of Walsh Investment Partners, one of the city's most respected financial firms. Tyler stood at his penthouse office window, watching the sunset paint the city gold. At 50, he cut an even more imposing figure than before. Success had added a layer of quiet authority to his presence. His marriage to Lynn 2 years ago had softened some of his edges while sharpening others. "Mr. Walsh?" Margaret Shin, now chief of staff, appeared at his door. Still efficient after 20 years, she'd grown with the company. "Your dinner reservation at Daniel is confirmed, and I have those updates you requested." Tyler turned from the window. "How are our old friends doing?" Margaret consulted her tablet. Amanda Walsh, now Amanda Collins again, still lives in Queens. The studio apartment her parents' trust fund affords is a far cry from the Upper East Side life she once knew. Her son, Lucas, is now 4.5. There is no father listed on the birth certificate. Tyler's mood was solemn. His ex-wife's downfall had been complete and spectacular. The last he heard, she was teaching yoga at a local gym, her dreams of private clients shattered by the scandal that still clung to her name. Oscar Bright. still technically in Singapore, although he frequently moves around Asia. He attempted similar schemes with wealthy expatriate wives in Hong Kong and Tokyo, but your documentation of his pattern made its way through certain channels. He's been blacklisted from most reputable fitness facilities and social clubs in the region. Recent photos showed a man on the decline. Oscar's looks, once his primary weapon, had faded. Without access to wealthy clients, he had been reduced to running boot camps on public beaches, living in modest apartments, and occasionally reaching out to Lucas with empty promises and excuses for not paying child support. What about Cassandra? Margaret's expression softened slightly. The monthly letters had stopped 2 years ago, but they all knew Tyler kept tabs on his former stepdaughter, still at the mid-level accounting firm in Queens. The plea deal and criminal record had prevented her from advancing in her career. She lived in a shared apartment in Astoria, took the subway to work, and had recently started dating a high school math teacher. It was a far cry from the life Tyler had once planned for her. The corner office, the trust fund, the penthouse apartment. The daughter he loved had died the day she chose to betray him. Benjamin Boyer chose that moment to arrive. His timing was impeccable as always. Now a senior partner at the city's most prestigious law firm, he had turned his handling of Tyler's divorce into a specialty practice serving Manhattan's elite. Ready for dinner? Lynn's meeting us there. Tyler grabbed his coat, asking, "How are Norma and Kenneth?" They're enjoying retirement in Palm Beach. They still haven't spoken to Amanda beyond sending birthday checks to Lucas. Ben checked his phone. Kenneth mentioned they've updated their will. Everything goes to charitable foundations. Apparently, they don't trust their daughter with even an inheritance anymore. The drive to Daniel took them past Amanda's old yoga studio. Through the window, they could see her leading a sparsely attended class. Her designer yoga wear had been replaced by generic athletic clothes, and her carefully maintained appearance showed signs of strain. She tried to reach out again. Ben mentioned she wanted to discuss renegotiating the divorce settlement. Nothing to discuss. Tyler's tone was firm. The prenup was clear. Infidelity meant forfeiture of all claims to his assets. Amanda's betrayal had cost her not just her marriage, but her lifestyle, social standing, and relationship with her parents. At Daniel, Lynn was waiting at their usual table. Her recent appointment as federal judge hadn't changed her. She remained the brilliant, grounded woman Tyler had fallen for during his divorce. Her pregnancy was just starting to show, a fact that filled Tyler with genuine joy, unlike the manipulation he had felt from Amanda. "I saw Cassandra today," Lynn mentioned as they sat down at the courthouse. She was filing paperwork for her firm. Tyler raised an eyebrow, inviting her to continue. She looked different, older. When she saw me, she asked if you had received her wedding invitation. "I did." Tyler sipped his water. The invitation sat unopened in his office drawer, like all of Cassandra's previous attempts at contact. "She's marrying that math teacher," Ben added. "Small ceremony in New Jersey. Amanda can't afford to help with the wedding, and Oscar has stopped responding to her messages entirely." The conversation turned to happier topics. Lynn's pregnancy, the company's expansion, Ben's recent engagement. Yet Tyler couldn't help but reflect on how completely justice had been served. Oscar Bright, the charming predator, now lived in self-imposed exile, his cons exposed, his lifestyle reduced to hustling for clients on Asian beaches. His good looks had faded, his charm had soured, and his dreams of wealthy women's fortunes had crumbled. Amanda Collins, once the elegant socialite, now taught yoga to bored housewives in Queens, living on a meager trust fund and sporadic child support. Her pregnancy, meant to be leverage, had become a burden. Her son would grow up without a father, and her parents' disappointment would always cast a shadow. Cassandra Stone, the beloved stepdaughter, had lost not only her inheritance, but her future as well. Her criminal record and public disgrace had shut the doors Tyler's influence once opened for her. She now lived a modest life, punching time cards and sharing apartments, paying the price for betraying the man who would have given her everything. Meanwhile, Tyler's life had flourished. Walsh Investment Partners had tripled in size. His marriage to Lynn brought him true happiness, and the baby on the way would be raised with real values, not the false loyalty that had torn apart his first family. Sometimes, Lynn said, reading his thoughts, karma needs a little help. Tyler smiled and took her hand. Justice is about consequences. They chose their path. I just made sure they couldn't escape where it led. Later that night, in their Upper East Side penthouse, Tyler watched the city lights while Lynn worked on case files. His phone buzzed with a text from Margaret. Amanda had tried to use his name to get store credit again, only to face embarrassment when the manager knew their history. 5 years had taught Tyler that the best revenge wasn't about destruction. It was about letting people live with the consequences of their choices. Oscar now faced the loneliness of an exposed con man. Amanda endured the humiliation of a schemer whose plots backfired. Cassandra lived the modest life of someone who'd traded birthright for betrayal. Tyler hadn't needed to pursue revenge. He had simply made sure justice was served cold and complete. His new life, the company's success, his marriage to Lynn, and their growing family weren't built on the ashes of the old one. They were built on the wisdom gained from surviving betrayal. The city sparkled below, and Tyler felt the familiar sense of peace. He'd lost a false family and found a true one. Success, he had learned, was the best revenge. But happiness was the best reward. Lynn looked up from her files, smiling at him, and Tyler knew he'd won more than justice. He'd won freedom from people who'd never deserved him, making room for those who did. In the end, karma had needed his help, but justice had served itself. He'd simply made sure everyone paid their fair price for betrayal. Thank you for watching the video until the end. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you won't miss any new videos from us. What do you think about today's topic? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. And if you found the video helpful, feel free to share it with your friends and family. We hope you had a great time. See you in the next video with even more exciting content. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out.